Hello, fellow Americans. Voice of Reason coming at you from Jacksonville, Florida. And while the title of this post is definitely very strong, as is the subject matter, it's only part of what I want to talk to you about today. A very dear friend of mine says coincidences are just God's way of trying to remain anonymous in situations. It's really just another way of saying that there's no such thing as coincidences. And if you're the type of person that believes that, and I do, then I'm in a very interesting situation right now. Can't call it a coincidence, because there are none of those, remember? Increasingly over the previous weeks, more and more information has been brought to my attention that were it to get out or be made public by the only people who have the ability to do so, it would be the end of a lot of political careers. Talking Republicans, Democrats, not necessarily any household names that you know of, but some of the most corrupt members of the BLM, Fish and Wildlife, county judges, certain sheriffs, certain congressmen, certain senators, and the list goes on. The media is not going to cover it. We know that. I've got names. I've got dates. I've got the bills that they wrote to pad their own shell companies that ended up taking tax dollar money to the tune of millions of dollars and lining their own pockets with it. And I need to get that information to somebody that has the ability to do something with it. Many years ago, when this country was founded, our founding fathers, they knew that everything that they did, they were risking it was life or death. You know, their lives, their fortunes, or their sacred honor, and their sacred honor. Ammon Bundy, when him and his group protested, whether you agreed or you disagreed with what they did, they knew what government was doing. They happened to be attacking the ranchers, but there was a bigger overarching issue. And Ammon Bundy put his life, his fortune, and his sacred honor on the line for me and for you, whether we liked it or whether we asked for it or not. And when you read an article like this, that after 48 hours, he's got to use his shackles to wail on the wall, and still no guards come. It has to be another inmate that gets a guard to come, who still doesn't feed him, but does agree to break the rules and let him visit with his brother because they're in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. Number one, not eating for 48 hours, that is a violation of the 8th Amendment. It's cruel and unusual. I think anybody would agree with that. These folks have had no semblance of due process. I don't want to spend too much time talking about their case. It's not about their case. It's about getting this information into the hands of a capable party who will shine the light where it needs to be shown. I believe that person is Donald J. Trump. So this is my plea to everyone out there. Republicans, Democrats, Cruz supporters, Trump supporters, Christians, Muslims, we all have a dog in this fight. Every single one of us, because the corrupt politicians are the ones that are eating away at the core and the soul of this country. And we all know it. Otherwise, why do you have a man who hasn't eaten in 2 days, slamming on the walls with his shackles? That's not supposed to happen in America. That happens when you have corrupt politicians who have taken to the tune of tens of millions of dollars from public taxes, pump them into shell companies, and then line their own pockets with them. I've got names of companies, actual bills that they used to do this. And it'll only take maybe 24 to 48 hours to get this into a format that I could turn over to somebody who could then run with it. So if you are currently working on the Trump campaign, or you know somebody who's working on the Trump campaign, or you know somebody who knows somebody who's working on the Trump campaign, or maybe you know somebody who plays golf with Donald Trump for all I know, I am begging you for your help to get me or one of his campaign people to reach out to me so I can get this information into the hands of somebody that I believe can make a difference. The media, I don't trust them. Donald Trump is on an all-out assault against the media and the corruption. I don't know who else would be a better person to get this information to. There's another gentleman who's been in this fight for quite some time. We seem to rally on a lot of the same issues. Gavin Seen, he preached in one of his videos, when you're talking about the issues, make sure you get the narrative right. Tell the facts the way they are. And the facts in this situation is, I've got an awful lot of information and I don't feel safe about who I give it to. I feel safe giving it to Trump. I think you'd feel safe with me giving it to Trump. Cruz people, you should just support this because I know that you're staunch constitutionalists and you're tired of the corruption. Trump people, you should support this because I know you're dying to see your boy look like a hero. Democrats, you should support this because there's plenty of Republicans that are part of this group. Republicans, you should support this because there's plenty of Democrats that are part of this group. So I don't care what your background is. I'm telling you, these people have become so arrogant, they're not even doing a good job covering their tracks anymore. If, a little old guy like me in Jacksonville, Florida, with virtually no resources, can put together enough for somebody with resources to get an incredibly good running start, that's how bad things have gotten. So aside from getting the narrative right, and that's what I want to do. I want to get the narrative into the right person's hands so that we can start shining some light, because the media they're not going to tell the narrative, not the real one. They've had their chances. Gavin also says it's time to start showing up when we can. Obviously we couldn't all travel to Oregon to be there for these guys, but when you have the ability to do something, you do it. I've got an audience that I reach 1 to 3 million people every month between my writing or my videos. When I read this article today about, the hug between him and his brother, and his brother leaving some food, underneath some clothes for him, that's when I said, I got to be able to look myself in the mirror in 20 years and say I did what I could to try to do the right thing. And I'm trying. I'm going to continue to try. So I'm pleading with somebody out there who knows somebody who knows somebody. I just want to get this information in the right hands. The last thing Gavin says in one of his videos is, it's time to start giving. It's going to take me, I don't have the resources to take a couple days off to try to read through a ton of Senate bills and House bills and, connect all the names. But I'm going to. Personal cost to myself and perhaps personal risk because it's the right thing to do. Some would say our moral compass is pointed in the wrong direction. I'd say as a country, we don't have one anymore. And I'm willing to do my part to try to help. So I hope that there's one of you out there that'll talk to somebody that you know, so we can get the light shown where it needs to be. And I'll leave it at that. John Adams once said that the Constitution that we have, it was made for a moral and religious people. That it would be wholly inadequate for any other type of people. This is where we find ourselves, folks. Are we a nation that's going to repent and say, please forgive us for our sins? Here's our chance. Please help me to help the country to get this information into the hands of those that can do more with it, that have louder speakers than I have, that certainly get much bigger audiences than I do. With that, Voice of Reason out.
Hey everybody, Gavin Syme, and people keep asking me, Gavin, what can I do to help the Patriots? Let's talk about that. I'm going to give you 3 things right now that you can do to help the Patriots. The first is get the narrative straight and stop deceiving ourselves. Let's stop with the false patriotism, the false bravado and the flag waving and, this attitude of, well, we're America, so we're better and we're the greatest and at least we're still free. We're not. We're not still free. We're not a nation of liberty anymore. We're not even a nation of law anymore, friends. Our government acts with impunity and they do whatever they want, and they have declared war on the law, on liberty, and on the people of this nation. And so our patriot brothers and sisters, they are prisoners of war. And we need to step up principled and bold and defend and stand for liberty and stand by them. And we need to start straightening out that narrative, not only in our own minds, but on the news articles calling these guys terrorists. Don't waste time with the trolls, but go on there and call out the truth and let that truth spread, and then teach it to your neighbors and to your children and to the world. And make sure people know that the narrative, the message is liberty. It's loving your neighbor as yourself. It's justice. Because that's not what's happening in our courtrooms. It's not what's happening in our government. The rule of law is lost in America, and we need to step up. We need to get on our knees. We need to appeal to heaven. We need to restore liberty. So number 1 is get that narrative straight. All right, number 2, start showing up. Start showing up. Show up and visit them in the prisons. Show up at the rallies. Show up in the courtroom. Show up by sending them letters and making sure they know that they're not forgotten. Look, it's in Oregon. It's all over the nation. Patriots like Jeff Winehouse, like Schaefer Cox, are patriots in Oregon. Ammon, John Ritzheimer, David Fry, Pete Santilli, and the list goes on and on and on. And I'm going to put a link to the list so we can keep up with that. Start supporting them. I can tell you firsthand that when you're in these jails, they have nothing to do with due process or justice in the courtroom or in the jails. And we're seeing that firsthand now, and I can attest to that. When you're in the jail, they are mentally abusive. They make you feel alone and isolated and helpless. That's the goal. They want to break you. And I can tell you that our guys in jail are going through a lot of abuse. It's not always slap you around physical abuse, but make no mistake, it is abuse. All right, and we need to let them know that we're out here, they're not alone, they're not forgotten, and they will not be forgotten. So that's number 2, is start showing up in any capacity that you can. Number 3, start giving. All right, our patriots, they went down to Oregon. They loved their neighbor. They stood up for the Constitution and the rule of law. And what did the government do? They murdered Lavoy Finicum. They assassinated him on the side of the road. They locked our patriots in cages. We need to start putting it on the line. They put their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor on the line. We need to start being willing to do the same, and we need to start giving of our fortunes. We need to start supporting them for legal fees and for their families, their wives, and their children that are out here. They can't do their jobs. They're locked away without due process, not being given bail. Friends, we have to start stepping up. And patriots, I always see them saying, oh, we'll be here when the time comes, we'll be there for you. And then the time comes and the word money is mentioned and they flee, they scatter in every direction. Or they say, oh, well, I'm sorry. I've got a new house payment and I just bought a new boat and there's the car and then there's the vacation and we're going to the game this weekend. So sorry, I really can't be there for you and I can't really give any money. Stop making excuses. We either step up for liberty or we are not for liberty. So you need to start supporting financially the people that are standing up, the people that are in jail. These people need help. And we need to start stepping up. And so I know that times are tough. Some people don't have jobs. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do. There's just no money. But that's not the case with most of us. If there's nothing else you can do, then show up. Be boots on the ground. Do whatever you can. But even if it's just a little, go to the website. I'm going to put a list. We're going to maintain a list of who's in jail, links to their fundraiser sites whenever we can find them. Send the letters, join the mail projects, send them donations. Make sure that them and their families are getting support. Put some effort into it and start giving a little bit to all of them. Start supporting them. And so there's 3 things we can do, friends. This falls to us. America is here because we, the people, allowed ourselves to be ruled over by a terrorist, treasonous, and lawless government. And we have to step up and start taking a stand for principle, for law, for peace, for the Constitution. If we don't stand up, we pass on the shackles of slaves to our children. And we tell them, you cannot have liberty.